So let's go back to Yellowstone. The poet who is really a guiding spirit for me and means a great deal, and he's company for me, though his time was 200 years ago, John Keats. He asked on his grave, all he wanted, he didn't want his name written, he wanted, "Here lies one whose name was writ in water." Here lies one whose name was writ in water. And some people came along later and said, "Oh, look how bitter he was. He died young. He thought his name wasn't written in the stars or in stone or whatever. It was just written in water, and he was bitter because he died so young. He died at 25." That's wrong. As someone who's read every Keats biography ever published, every letter ever written many, many times, that's wrong. All our names are written on water, right? If we're lucky and we look and we can maybe find people from a couple hundred years ago, a couple hundred years before that, but there are trains of people back before them who wrote their names on water, who then led to us, right? Who then led to us. And I think Keats is telling us, it's okay, right? That's all right. So this is back in Yellowstone, thinking about Keats. Title of the poem is, "Whose Name Was Writ in Water." Maybe let the mountain creek cool on my feet as I lay on the bank, looking where the spruce point. The creek whose syllable never ceases, pianissimo under snow, forte in spring, companionable now it's July. The creek whose meaning is only itself, voice following its open course through forest. This creek, maybe let it do the speaking. I've come far again, to the long exhale for clouds, to blood slowing through vessels of my neck, of my sore hands, soft, soft, soft. I've come to quiet the alarm of my ears. Hello, stone summits. Hello, last of last winter's high snowfields. Hello, mossy smell rising in dry alpine air. Hello, spires of grass rising around my face. Maybe let the creek be the poem. Somewhere last night's wolf, alone in this narrow valley, lowers her pink tongue to drink. Perfect timing approval of the Bible. You're welcome. I'm going to end with my version of a love poem. This also has some wolves in it, and I'll try to keep time. That's actually not bad, right? That's not bad. So ever since we used to go, I've been going to Yellowstone and watching wolves. I teach a class there actually now that's part of the Master of Fine Arts program, researching and writing in the field. And we go and we look at all kinds of creatures, flora, fauna. We study the park, and then we write actually out in the field every year. And so I'm there a lot. And this is a particular morning, and we're very, very far from communication, right? There's no bars, there's no towers, we're out in the wilderness. So it's a long way between being there and communicating with the people we love. The only other thing you need to know about this poem is my wife's name is Amy, and the name of the poem is Amy. Amy. This morning I heard wolves through mountain rain. In thin first light, the low sky wet my face. The subject was loneliness. Always again, loneliness. We are each our own piece of this world a while. From my body across the valley, I watch them find one another, for, and sniff, and wag, and turn circles of joy, and trot off together. I drove 3 hours of mountain road to call you. Thank you. I am really looking forward to giving this introduction. Okay. There is no new book this year not one new book in any genre about which I am more deeply pleased to my poetic core than Dan Morris's Tree, Moss, Fungus, and Fern. I've known some of these poems for more than 20 years, and they've come to feel like home. Or more precisely, they've come to have that at-home feeling that you get when spending time in the home of someone you love. Dan is as close a friend as I have, and rereading this companionable, unassumingly exquisite book reminds me why. Like the mountains and forests around here from which so many of these poems, and the poet himself, come, this book is dense and lush with history and life. In it we range with Dan through his mother's ancestral Tennessee, down to Mississippi, back up to Idaho and Spokane, and finally home again to these Cascades, this coast, to our friend's childhood home. Like Dan, this book is perfect traveling company to show us the way home. Dan Morris.
Thank you all for coming. Can you hear me okay?
Oh,
yeah. Good? Okay. Thank you so much for coming out. This is amazing. I'm kind of, I don't know, I guess I'm not shocked, but it's just surreal. That's the word I'm looking for. It's just surreal that I'm, this here. When you go to grad school, or you take a class on writing, and you imagine someday your books or your poems will live somewhere, and it's just, it took a long time, but I have no regrets. I'm so glad to be able to have this book and give it to the world. And thank you, Jonathan, for the amazing introduction. Thank you all. And I want to call out this book design is just incredible too. I gave them a painting that I gave my friend an idea. I said I wanted a picture of a painting of a Steller's jay, which is a common bird around here. And it's just a bird that's haunted my life ever since I learned about it in 7th grade. And I said, this is what I'd like on the cover, and she painted this amazing picture, which I now own as well. And then I gave this stuff and gave them a few suggestions or requests if possible, and they gave me something amazing, more amazing than I would have ever designed myself. I mean, just down to the font. I love the font choice, just the whole layout. It's incredible. So I'll stop gushing about that now. And I think I forgot what I was going to say next, other than thank you again for coming out and supporting this. This is amazing. I more or less plow through my poems. I will stop and try to give some context when I feel necessary. But I will say that the first section of my book consists of a chapbook. Sometimes when writers, poets, they'll get the opportunity to put out a chapbook, which is usually like a smaller version of an actual book. It's a cheap book. It's usually like saddle stitched and maybe 20 poems and a very short print run. A lot of times people do them on old letterpresses. I mean, it's a really cool chapbook. But back in the day, that's how it started. And so you get one of those, and it's kind of like a starting off point. And I love those poems so much that I wanted to keep them in the world. And so the first section of this book is essentially that chapbook. So I'm going to start there, and I'm just going to kind of move through, and we'll see how it ends up. I got to change my glasses, excuse me. Okay, now I can't see you, but I can see my words. Okay. Golden Gardens Ballad. Low clouds mean no stars tonight in dim backlight from Seattle. This beach is as black as the lake calm water of this sound resting before it refloods. The tide pools and damp rocks, the small crabs underneath waiting for something new to float by when all is restored. The leftovers of a pier are silhouettes above sand in the black air. And what we thought was a stump of a piling is actually moving, and a couple holding close in the dark, walking back to dim fires and cars. The only thing not calm is the air, but it's not telling much. Everything is silent, except a freight train rolling south on its track. I will say a little bit about this poem. One of the great things, and it's, I don't think you could ever repeat it or imitate it, but when I was in grad school, they had this event that just sort of organically emerged, I believe, over in Troy, Montana, where poets from the different writing programs would come together on a Saturday night at this unassuming bar, and they just read their craziest things, and it was just a very informal but just a perfect gathering. And you'd have some great writers show up, and anyway, we spent time at this bar just going to do these readings. And then another time, I guess, is actually I took a class with Jonathan, that he taught, was where we learned about the writers of the Northwest, and then we would go visit a lot of these places where they would go, where their work probably developed, or somewhat developed. And so we went up to Troy, Montana to go see about the writer, I can't think of it, yeah, Rick Bass. Anyway, Rick Bass, and I don't think this bar doesn't have anything to do with him exactly, but it's just where we would go. And there's another poem in the book that kind of revisits this area. But this is just from my time being spent there, my observations, and kind of, it's not like a autobiographical, it's just observation. But it's called To the Girl with the Hair at the Club Bar in Troy, Montana. You must come here every night looking for something. Every night, larch burns black in the stove. The black dog in need of a bath lies on the floor halfway between the beautiful bar and the door. And the old man who tries to buy you a drink each night you see him, every night, steps over the dog on his way to his nightly descent. How you wish the train raging down the track on the other side of Yak Avenue through the dark would bring more than diesel smell and naive hope.